Hello. Da-da-da. Hello, hello. Just a second, I gotta find something to lean my phone against. Salt. Okay. Happy Wednesday, everybody. What shall we do today? Well, today I thought I had a lot of fun last afternoon. By the way, Tuesday afternoon. It was a really nice time. So thank you for joining me, and thanks for coming back, some of you. So here's what I was thinking. I actually, unfortunately, have only half hour today because I've got to run. I've got to be at a board meeting that I'm going to be attending from my house. So I thought rather than start a new topic, today we should revisit some things we spoke about yesterday and kind of go a little bit deeper into it and talk a little bit about structure. Those of you who didn't come yesterday, don't worry, you'll still get a good grade. Yesterday we spoke about two concepts about screenwriting. We picked something easy and we picked something hard, and we spoke about, I see a lot of my friends are coming on here. That's cool. Hello, friends. So we picked something easy. We spoke about wants and needs, and then we spoke about something hard. We spoke about tone. What tone is, how it's achieved, what exactly it is, and how it's very amorphous. It's very hard to talk about it, but we try to talk about it. And then we spoke about two movies. We spoke about Singing in the Rain, and we spoke about Erin Brockovich, and we try to apply those two concepts to those movies. And today, since I have only half hour, I promise you tomorrow I'll have the full hour, and I'll make up for my lack of time today. But I thought that we should just keep talking a little bit about, sorry for that little jerk, I didn't have to do it again. I thought we should just keep going down that road a little bit, and I wanted to bring in something else. I wanted to talk more about Singing in the Rain and start a conversation about structure. And I'm going to talk only for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to just make myself available for your questions. And then tomorrow we'll talk more about structure, and we'll talk mostly about how it can be a tool rather than something that cripples us. Like the goal is to write something good. The goal is not to write something that fits the structure we designed for it. It doesn't make any sense. It's not. It's kind of architecture, the work of writing and making movies, but not exactly. But I want to talk about structure in a way that helps us, like a tool. It's not something that, not a house that we build in and then we have to live in it for the rest of our lives. It's not the structure of something when you're working on it is not like a bad marriage. Like you have to stay in it. It doesn't work that way. Let's talk for 5 minutes about Singing in the Rain, because we spoke about it tomorrow, so you are familiar with it. Those of you who've seen it are of course familiar with it. Those of you who haven't seen it know what it's about, because we spoke about the tone of Singing in the Rain specifically yesterday. We spoke a little bit about wants and needs. So I'm not going to expand the conversation about Singing in the Rain, which, by the way, you can easily watch. It's such a great movie. It puts you in a great mood. It's a perfect thing to watch right now. And I think you can watch it for free on YouTube, or you can pay for it too if you want. Pay for it would be my vote is always for paying for things. And you can get the screenplay for free. You don't have to pay for the screenplay. And it's a really great screenplay to read, and it's you'll get it from Simply Scripts or one of those sites, and it's been typed out on paper and actually from a typewriter, and you can see that somebody scanned the typewritten pages, and it's beautiful the way it's from that era when the movie was made. So here I'll give you a brief summary of what the movie is about. It's set in 1927. It's a musical. It's a beautiful musical, and it's about the silent era in films and how this one particular studio and this one particular actor is going from silent movies. He's trying to rescue a doomed production and turn it into a musical, a not silent movie, of course. And it's about his love story. And yesterday, when we were talking about tone, we were talking about the band of performances in that movie. We were talking about how everything, the production design, the costumes, the way it was shot, everything was consistent, tonally consistent. So we were talking about tone because it's such an amorphous concept. I was telling you that it's better to talk about tone as tonal consistency. And we were just talking about singing in the rain as an example of tonal consistency. Somebody's laughing. I don't know why you're laughing, but that's cool. It's time to laugh. But I want to go a little bit from the tone conversation. I want to take it a little bit into structure. And here's where I would encourage you to just get the script and read it. And it's not a homework. If you don't want to read it, we'll just have a nice conversation about it. So I want to talk to you about what happens in that movie. Story beat by story beat. And then just vaguely I want to talk to you about the 3-act structure. Because the 3-act structure is something that I don't really consciously think about when I'm writing. But when something works, I impose the 3-act structure on it after I have written it. And I always find that it works as a 3-act movie. And because I don't think too much about it because it paralyzes me while I'm writing, but I'm always subconsciously aware of it. And because I know that when my movie is working on the page, I'm going to be able to take this 3-act structure and I'm going to be able to say that this is the end of the first act, this is the midpoint of the story, this is the end of the second act, and this is the third act, right? So what I did was that I read Singing in the Rain again after we spoke about it yesterday, and I thought we could just use that movie to go from our tone conversation into the conversation about structure. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to just tell you the broad story beats, and then I'm going to talk to you about the structure of that movie. So broad story beats. We first meet Gene Kelly, who's playing this debonair silent movie star called Dawn Lockwood, and his heroine, who's actually the bad guy in the movie, Lena Lamont. And when we were talking about tone yesterday, a really important thing to mention is also that the bad guy in this movie, Lena Lamont, she is so absolutely lovable in the sense that she's formidable. She is an obstacle for our hero, but each time she comes on screen, you're looking forward to it because she's gonna make you laugh, and you're always looking forward to her entry, and every scene of hers is so extremely funny, and that's really what we were talking about tone yesterday. That this movie is so tonally consistent and faithful, to that every aspect of it has been kept in mind. While the band of the performances is just wonderful and consistent throughout. It plays to the strengths of its actors. And I'll talk to you more about Lena Lamont. She's really one of my favorite characters in movies. So we meet Dawn Lockwood and Lena Lamont. And in this first opening sequence, the first 15 pages of the movie, Dawn is telling this gossip journalist about his life and how he made it. And everything that he says is the opposite of what we see. He's actually come from nothing. And he's just an entertainer in cheap joints around the country. And then he worked as a stuntman, and he somehow, by both luck and persistence, became a leading man. But we see his struggle, but what he's saying is the opposite of it. He's talking about being somebody from amazing circumstances, a real blue-blooded prince kind of individual, who went to the best academies in the world, and the difference between what we see and what he says tells us everything we need to know about him. That he's a bit of a shallow, fraud. And we also get to know more about Dawn and Lena because he never gives her a chance to talk. And her voice is one of the comedic reliefs in the movie. She has this flat nasal tone, and she's of course a silent movie star, so it doesn't matter. But now she's about to come into talkies, so it's going to matter. And then hence we meet Kathy, who is the other half of the love story between the central love story of the movie. So Dawn accidentally bumps into Kathy, who is, a struggling actor in Hollywood, and she actually is a theater snob, and she looks down upon him. And that's the end of the first act, So that's the first 28 pages, roughly, of the movie. And we've seen the beautiful Lockwood Lamont movie premiere. We've met the antagonist, Lena Lamont, and she's quite formidable. And we've met all the side characters, the great supporting cast. Cosmo Brown, who's Dawn's right hand man. We've met Simpson, who's the owner of the studio. And we met Kathy, who's going to be the second half of this love story. The second act, and I'm going to be really broad here, because I really want to talk about structure and tone hand in hand. In the second act, Kathy and Dawn bump into each other again, and once again, there's sparks, but there's also this kind of conflict and this kind of snobbery from her end, and it's an obstacle for him. It's an obstacle to that love story. And then she disappears, and then he looks for her for weeks, and basically the whole sort of talkie revolution creeps into this world of silent movies, and this whole studio gets appended, and the production is shut down, and Dawn and Kathy get together again on the studio lot one day when all these changes are happening. And then she becomes his ally over time through the second act to help him transition from silent movies to talkies. And there's in the midpoint of the story, around about page 50, 52, there's a big problem. The first Lockwood Lamont talkie movie, The Dueling Cavalier, is going to be a big flop. They do a test screening, and it bombs. And Kathy and Dawn, their love story has now grown, and they become real allies to salvage this production and turn it into a musical called The Singing Cavalier, I think. And the rest of the second act proceeds with just amazing musical numbers that are so tied so integrally to the narrative. And we come to the end of the second act where Lena finds out that Kathy has been the voice behind her. So Lena is essentially been lip-syncing for Kathy's dialogues and voice, and she has no idea. And she puts her foot down and basically pulls out her contract and makes Kathy her slave, essentially her slave. And she would have to abandon her career and keep singing and talking for Lena for the rest of her career. And so that's the end of the second act, which is usually in sort of conventional wisdom said that it is when all is lost. It is when all is lost, and the third act is when the heroes, namely in this case Dawn and Kathy, would have to come back from that, and they do. And the third act plays out again. The movie starts in a premiere and ends in another movie premiere. And in the third act, they expose Lena Lamont, and Dawn also stands up for his love and sort of expresses his love for Kathy openly, something he hasn't done in the whole movie. So that's essentially very broadly the broad beats of Singing with the Rain. But I was illustrating the structure. I told you the first act, the second act, and the third act, the midpoint of the story. What I'm saying essentially is that this is a tool. This is a tool to gauge if you are on the right path. It's not something that you use to paralyze yourself. And we have only about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to open it up for questions because I have only half hour with you today. I just wanted to introduce a conversation about structure very broadly. And then tomorrow we'll take another movie and we'll get into it more deeply, and we'll just. The best way to learn about these things, or rather talk about these things, is to do it through examples, to do it through the movies we love. So I'm going to talk about more movies, and then you can suggest movies to me, and then we can speculate together about how they may or may not fall into the 3-act structure. You'll find that each of us may differ on where the first act ends, where the second act ends, what the midpoint of the story is. But that's not the point. The point is that this is a tool for us to make our stories better, and to see and to basically excavate. It's like going inside the hood and using a tool, like what I was talking about wants and needs yesterday, taking a character from their wants to their needs. It's just a tool, right? And you can be subconsciously thinking about these things, and you probably are while you're writing. So with that, knowing that we have only 15 minutes left, I'm going to open it up to questions, or I can also equally keep blabbering. So if you guys have any questions, now's the time. Oh, by the way, some people wrote to me and told me to turn this into highlights. I don't know how to do that. So if you can suggest to me how to do that in these comments, just tell me how to do that. Okay, one question at a time. I'm going to see what. Okay. So somebody's asked, how do we employ structure once we have a protagonist and their goal identified? Look, I don't know how to answer that question. I think you it depends on your writing process. What I do is I outline aggressively, and my outlining process helps me to get closer to my characters, and then I try to figure out how I'm going to get them from their wants to their needs, and then along the way I figure out what's going to happen, what is the plot of the story, and then the more and more I work on it, I start thinking about how this tool, this sort of 3-act structure tool, can serve me. Okay. What happens to photograph according to the acts you mentioned? Oh, that's a great question. Let's take some other questions that are more sort of broadly about craft, and then I'll get back to that. Can you tell us which movie you will discuss soon? Maybe we can see it and the discussion can be more interesting. Oh yes, you want me to tell you what movie I'm gonna, I should do more. I should be more, plan ahead. So yeah, let's decide. Let's decide what movie we can talk about and analyze in terms of structure. And we should make it something that's easily available to everybody. So can you suggest some movies to me? Suggest some movies to me, and I'll take your suggestions, and we'll break them apart together over here, and I'll do some homework, of course. Your views on writing magical realism, and if there's scope for subtext and metaphors. Well, look, I can tell you about subtext. There has to be a subtext each time two people are talking, because, sure, let's do La La Land. Somebody suggested La La Land. Let's do that. And let's do Little Miss Sunshine too. Why not? I would love to read La La Land again. It would be a lot of fun for me. So let's do La La Land and Little Miss Sunshine. Those are perfect examples of very well structured movies. Okay, somebody asked me about subtext and metaphors. Look, I think subtext is something that is really important, and you get better at it more and more you write, because people never say what they mean. And I'm talking about dialogue here. Like when two people are talking in movies, they never say what they mean, what they really mean, unless they are put in a situation where they have no other choice. So subtext is the art of writing good dialogue. It has to be loaded with subtext. And metaphors, I don't know, I can be less articulate about metaphors, because I think if you consciously try to write metaphorical things, it always fails. But if you are really inside your work, your characters, it comes from a really deep place. I think a lot of the images in your movies are metaphorical. For example, I'll give you an example from my own work, because I know my own work really well. Not because I think it's great, but in Lunchbox, when we were shooting, I wanted a shot of pigeons. There's a lot of pigeons in Bombay. I wanted a shot of pigeons on a rooftop. They all look the same, and I wanted the movie to start with that shot. And I never knew why. I didn't think about it much. I just thought that, well, I need to have the movie start with the shots of pigeons, which all look the same. And the movie was going to end with a shot of the protagonist, her, alone at a window, right? So those are things I knew and I had written. Now, after I finished making the movie, I realized that the movie is also really about her becoming her own person. A singular person who knows what she wants, and she's going to try to get it. And and become separate from everybody else. So because also in the movie, the people are the lunch boxes. The lunch boxes are all the same. They are all going from home to work and back. They are all the same. But and in a sense, people are doing that too. And then through the story, these two people become separate. They come onto their own. It's kind of a coming of age story of older people. So. And that shot of pigeons, it was kind of metaphorical. It said that everybody's the same right now. And then through the story, she's going to emerge singular. And so that's very metaphorical. But if I would spend time obsessing about that metaphor and other metaphors, then I would just fill the story up with metaphors and it would make no sense at a visceral, emotional level. So be careful of metaphors, be careful of them. If they come naturally, then that's good. But if not, that's not good. Okay, wait, sorry. I'm just getting messed up here a little bit with the... I don't want to comment. Okay. Sorry, what's the next question? I need to know more about third-person omniscient style of writing. I don't know. I don't know what that means, man. What does that mean? Third-person omniscient, oh my god. Okay, so... Okay, please post this story. We want to see. Can you tell me how to post it, please? I don't know how to post it. So once it comes live, what do I have to do? I don't know. More questions. Is it necessary to have a 3-act structure in all scripts? Well, no. No, I don't think so. What I'm saying is that this is a tool. This is a tool for you to see if what you're doing is working or not. If you don't want to use it, it's fine. Some people also talk about the 5-act structure and stuff, but everything is a tool. As far as writing is concerned, everything is a tool, and you don't have to use it. It's not supposed to hamstring you. If you're going to spend hours trying to think about how your movie fits in the 3-act structure, and that's going to take away the joy of writing from you, it's gonna hurt your writing more than it's going to help it. So the 3-act structure is a tool to help you gauge, to help you kind of excavate your story. And if your movie, if you can't figure out how to make it work in that and you feel that what you're writing is good and you're enjoying it, then don't worry about it, That's what I say. Can you tell us where you got the inspiration for Lunchbox and Photograph? I was really in this phase of writing what I knew and also things that I didn't know that I was interested in. For those movies, some of my early movies, like my first movie especially, I really know the world. I know it like the back of my hand, and that's a big position of strength, when you're trying to make something work. So I always advise people who are trying to do their first work to, of course, it can also be science fiction, but if it has something to do with what you already know. But write what you know is also a little bit misleading because you can know other stuff too if you spend time trying to get to know it. Somebody asked, my characters sound like me sometimes, how to improve it and have distinct voices for different characters. Look, I don't know. Look, I think this is good. It's a good thing if they sound like you. But I think what you're saying is they all sound the same. Well, I think the real problem might be, and I'm speculating because I don't know the work that you're doing, but the real problem might be that what they want and need is not so dissimilar from each other. I think what we're really talking about here is orchestration. Like how do you orchestrate characters in a story so that they are laying obstacles against each other's wants and needs, and the story is perfectly orchestrated so it has all the conflict it needs. And there's a wonderful book called The Art of Dramatic Writing by Lagos Agri, and it has a chapter on orchestration that's really great. So I would advise you look at that. Just read that chapter. Okay, sorry. I'm so bad at this technology that I keep doing something wrong. Okay. Once in the end, you have to go to the story and show it as a story. I don't know. Please rephrase that and ask me in a way that I can answer it. can we talk about subtext more? Yes, sure, we can talk about subtext more. We can take some concrete examples. But subtext is really what subtext is, and it's a little bit. It's not as amorphous as tone to talk about. We can talk about it specifically, right? What subtext is really that what lies underneath a communication between two people. Like if somebody tells you, "Hi, nice to meet you," that doesn't really mean "Hi, nice to meet you." They might be saying, "I wish you were dead," and that's the subtext in the way they say it. So just like a concrete example, and whenever two people are talking, I think just this is the thing about human nature is like sometimes people are reserved, but they are very happy to see you, right? And that tells you a lot about their character, and you should be doing that in your writing as well with people. And that's what subtext is. Subtext is what lies underneath the words. I hope that helps. How do you play with time while incorporating structures and not mess up the tone of the film? I don't know I don't understand the question, but I think what you're asking is about movies that go back and forward in time and are still structurally sound. Pulp Fiction is a good example. That movie plays with different storylines and different times, and I think you could talk about it in terms of a three-act structure. But if it was written with that structure in mind, I'm sure it would hamstring the writing process. But now that it's done, we can talk about it in the three-act structure. Okay, what else? We have 3 more minutes. Are there any exercises for dialogues that you use? Exercises for dialogues? No. But you know what? I'll tell you what I do. I do some research. And so like recently I'm trying to write something in the voice of like these 15-year-old girls in London. Now, what do I know about 15-year-old girls in London, right? And I'm certainly not one. So I go to YouTube a lot and watch and try to watch people talking. I spend some time in London. I spend some time in coffee shops overhearing people. That kind of research I think is really important to try to write from the voice of somebody. Okay. You thought about the fan sequence in Lunchbox, the scene in which the sergeant is reading the letter to Ela and telling... Yeah, okay, great. Hey, so somebody's asking me a question about a specific sequence in one of my movies that has to do with fans, ceiling fans. And I think what you're really asking me about is how to write visually. But I don't think we have enough time to talk about how to write visually, but except to say for now that one of the cliches of screenwriting, one of the things that people are always talking about is show it, don't say it. And that's what that was about, that there was a voiceover playing, there was a character who was talking in his internal voice to another character, and they were talking about something, and then there was this magic realist kind of fans coming on and off. And it really is, a lot of writing is about, especially voiceover, that what's being said in the voiceover and what's being shown, how can those two be not the same but complement each other in a way that we can say something deeper about the character. So like what I was telling you about Singing in the Rain, right? In the first 15 pages of that movie, this guy is telling us about how he became a star. What he's saying and what we are seeing are two different things, right? And that's really the genius of it. And that tells us a lot about him. That tells us he's a liar, he's a fraud. Also tells us that he struggled through life to get here. And so we forgive a lot of his, he's a very lovable fraud. Okay, when you're pitching your script, you've written the synopsis, but it's difficult to cover the essence of the script in a few pages. Well, that's true. It is difficult, but I think that it's not difficult if you really kind of work at it. I think you can capture what you're trying to tell. You can say, hey, this is the story, and this is what it's really about. What it's really about is what we were talking about yesterday, wants and needs, and we were talking about tone yesterday, and this is what it's going to be tonally, and you can give comparables or examples of other movies or books even, or paintings, and I think that's what really a synopsis is, to try to get through to another person what you're trying to do the best you can, and nothing more than that. So I have to go, but I'm sorry I have to duck out half hour early tomorrow. But I really enjoy this. I really enjoy being and just doing this and talking to you guys. It's a really great. It's the best use of my writing break. So here's what we're gonna do tomorrow. I'm gonna come on at 2 again, and we'll talk about structure more, and maybe we talk about La La Land. Let's talk about La La Land. And the structure of La La Land, and I would love to talk about also where the numbers come in La La Land and how they serve the story. So yeah, you bye and have a wonderful day. And I am so sorry I have to leave early today, but I'll see you tomorrow, and take good care of yourself. Stay safe, all right? Stay safe out there.